bad the way it is, you know. I mean, if you think about the way the world has been over the millennia that humans have been on the planet and have evolved, we are at the moment happier, living longer, less belligerent than we've ever been. And despite the media's mania for catastrophe and calamity and shock and horror, the world is actually a relatively benign place if you look at the sort of historical continuum. So, and this is a nice environment, is it not? You know, a bit of yesterday and a bit of today, and here you are with a camera surrounded by all these wonderful pieces of 19th century industry and design, and stones from Tasmania that came over here in the ballast of a ship. On that building behind you there, the grey stone, not the white, that's local limestone, but the grey is actually from Tasmania. So there's an interesting thing to actually mull upon, think you not.
In that way, like the musical church or the, being punished for being sick, it's a little bit backwards in Oamaru in the way that we do have different ideals, I suppose, hold above others different ideals. Money is not really something in our social scene here in Oamaru that gives you any extra power over anybody.
But it's just the most remarkable town because it has a feel that I never got in Australia. I've lived in Australia all my life, but there was something about the community feel here and the friendliness of the people and the countryside and the beauty and the Englishness of it. If there was one thing about Oamaru that made me come here, apart from the people, it was the Englishness of it. The architecture, the seaside, the seagulls. They were bad. I know they're bad at the moment. But there's just this English feel about this town. And it has incredible history. You know, the port and all the history of the sheep export. No, I just feel very comfortable here.
I have a person of high social standing as a bookbinder in town, you know, who has lived by the same rules as the Erewhonians of looking down at technology and rejecting it completely.
They said they wanted a living, working Victorian town at work. And at the time I was a practicing traditional hand bookbinder, wearing what I call trad clothes, vaguely Edwardian, not really Victorian, but more Edwardian, every day, not in Auckland. And it was ridiculous, it was absolutely wrong. So I jumped at the opportunity thinking optimistically that there was a whole village of people like myself, which was completely wrong.
Amongst other things, interestingly enough, he said that in the future, crime would be seen as a sickness and sickness would be seen as a crime. And curiously enough, that's proving now to be truer than I suspect he may ever have imagined. I just share that random thought with you because we were talking about Butler.
I'm very much an apologist for the arts and crafts movement, and William Morris is a big hero of mine. I think he would just roll in his grave, you know, to see how bad things have come. And I think the worst thing that could have befallen him was that the arts and crafts movement, which was about values as well as beauty, became relegated to a style and a fashion, therefore it went out of fashion. I mean, to me that's really tragic.
Well, I guess we cherry pick the good elements of Victorian life, the love of art and ornamentation, which of course was decimated by the modern age. Ornamentation is you know, seen by the School of Architecture as you know, a joke, basically. So I guess the architecture here drew people to that, and we don't ignore the bad elements of Victorian society, but we just like to celebrate the good elements of Victorian society. What you know, people weren't, you know, the William Morrises of this world were still hoping that humanity could not become entirely industrialised and utilitarian, hoping that things could still be handmade for the purposes of giving people the benefits of having handmade things, the joy from that.
And I think it is the people. It's the people here. And I mean, look at tonight. It's just incredible. You come down here, and I've only been here less than a year, and I know about 40 people. It's not a competition, but they just make me feel welcome.
I mean, I think that Erewhon is a book written by somebody who's looking for something, not trying to escape from something. I mean, the two things are probably intertwined in a sense. You get away from things you don't like, or once you're away from them, you see them in a new light and start recasting them as the way you would wish things to be. But I mean, Erewhon is a sort of visionary thing, isn't it? It's a forecast. It's a book about the world he wanted to inhabit, or us to populate. So that's thinking ahead, not fleeing in terror from something, I would have thought.
And the wonderful thing is that we've been to Belgium quite a few times, and we've modelled the colour scheme and how it feels on a couple of places. And when we stand here and we look out that window, and we can see a little bit of cobbles, and we see that building, it is a bit for us like being in Belgium and Brussels. And before the sump was fixed, someone came in here and stood here and looked at everything and went, it even smells like Brussels, because the sump wasn't fixed. Quite sulphury and pooey, what you get over there.
It's a religious thing, isn't it? You deposit your prayers as money. So I guess in a funny way you could say Oamaru, the musical church, is loosely sort of beauty and enjoyment of life, and money, can not really influence your path to attaining that. Or at least you can just deposit any random amount, can't you, into that bank.
And a rule is, William Morris, your own shark dealer's version, please.
Oh, have nothing in your tankards. I'm right. That is not Belgian or yeastful. So you know the William Morris quote. Your turn.
William Morris quote: have nothing in your houses that you do not believe to be beautiful nor tasteful.
Useful.
Or useful.
Yeah, tasteful,
that's
beautiful, and
correct.
useful.
Yeah. So that's a pretty good rule. So don't have a whole lot of crap in your house.
Yeah.
That's useless, throwaway junk, unless it's very useful or beautiful.
And if it's both, well,
that's perfect.
And there's a side of the town that kind of resents that there's people having fun. The very conservative side of town ignore this. It's not even happening. Sort of like those people don't exist. If you don't go down there, they don't exist. Because if you go down there, you might see somebody dressed colourfully having fun. You might get, it might be awkward. It's almost like the precinct within Oamaru is a bit like Erewhon over the hill being ignored, or like them ignoring everyone else. It's more like them ignoring everyone else. So you could say, actually, we might be in the real world, and the actual people in the town are more Erewhonian than we are. The freaks. I don't know.